Thursday morning, we were starting to get reports from our contract weather service that were showing that we could have a possibility of up to 50 inches of rain. And the first thing you say is, that's not even possible.
One of the first things we did was reserve some hotel rooms very close to the plant so that if for some reason employees couldn't get home, they would have a place for them to stay until the floodwaters in the streets receded.
We keep 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel in the plant for a hurricane. We keep somewhere above 5,000 gallons of gasoline. The employees need gas to respond to situations at home. They need gasoline to respond to work. So that's the first thing in our plan. The second thing in our plan is emergency generators. We keep 6 large emergency generators in the plant for plant use.
Our plan was to run a minimal amount of units through the storm. When the Moses Bayou came into the plant, virtually the entire plant was flooded. The water started entering the control rooms under the doors and into the substations is when we realized that this was much more serious than we expected and that we needed to shut the plant down. The Gulf Coast Water Authority were concerned that this 900-acre water reservoir is going to fail and come into the plant. I spoke to our maintenance manager and I said, get everybody out and lock the gate. Everybody evacuated. He looked up at the dike wall and he said, I can see the waves crashing over the top of the levee.
Hurricane planning starts long before there's a hurricane in the Gulf. Dow, along with the local schools, the hospital, the emergency preparedness office, the first responders, we get together and make sure we understand each other's plans. As a responsible care company, our first priority is the safety of our people and our communities. When the hurricane approached, Dow made sure that every one of our sites was in the best possible position. So for Seadrift operations, that meant that we had the site shut their production units down. For the other sites in Dow, they were able to stay at a stable, safe position while still running. We have 6,000 employees for Dow that work in the state of Texas, and we touch bases with every single one, not just to find out if they were okay, but to make sure that we understood what their needs were. It was selfless the way our employees work to keep our facilities running and in good shape.
We have many, many patients who are dependent upon our medical gases like medical oxygen. We supply about 35% of all the medical oxygen throughout the country. In this case, we will in advance go and fill all of the hospital and clinics tanks to make sure there's adequate supply of oxygen for them to continue to operate and maintain patients' needs throughout the storm. And as soon as the storm passes, we will assure patients' needs are always met.
Whenever there's a hurricane, there's a team put together on standby just in case things start to flood or high winds. We tie everything down out in the plant, and we do have our procedures just in case we have to shut down the unit.
We were not expecting hurricane force winds in the area, which is usually what triggers us shutting down the operation. However, Harvey affected some of the services we receive, such as steam and wastewater treatment.
We had a crew here that stayed almost 3 days on site, and they were not only able to bring the site down safely, but also put us in a position for restart without any significant hiccups.
We obviously expected to see some rising waters and some flooding that will impact our operations, and so we needed to prepare for that situation. Shut down the plant in advance, prepare the site in terms of tying up different things that could be loose, making sure levels in our tanks were appropriate. We also make sure that we had supplies for our ride-out crew, approximately 8 to 10 people, supervisor, members of operations, maintenance, that were here for about a week.
As we saw Harvey approaching, our thoughts were more along the lines of what we need to do to support the Freeport site. We were gearing up to be ready to supply raw materials, to move product out of the plant everything we needed to do to keep the plant running.
Pretty proud of the company. All the work that we did ahead of time, all the drills, it all paid off. Companies all worked together and partnered. If somebody was out or needed help with something, everyone else pitched in to help.